from there onwards. And I think boundaries are very important in the workplace, especially if you don't want anyone else to come and overstep boundaries and actually violate your privacy or violate what you think is yours. And the same way it applies to others as well. So you really need to know where to draw the line yourself, so that you can respect other people's boundaries. So even when somebody is complaining to you, you can tell them, okay, this is what I can do, this is what I can't do. Maybe you can take this to the manager and say. So you also give them an option. You give them something to think about.
Now, speaking of boundaries and really setting the boundaries of your own privacy, what if a flirtatious co-worker just can't take a hint? And you have to deal with that situation. What happens then?
Yeah, these things could happen under the name of fun, right?
Fun. Everyone loves to have fun at the workplace.
Yeah, I think.
But being too jolly can be a bit of an issue.
Yeah, and not everybody might appreciate that, and some might even take that as being offensive. But you have to be very clear that this is something that you don't appreciate, that you would really like him or her to stop doing that. I think silence these are just myths about harassment or sexual harassment and passing sexual jokes. The myth is that if you keep quiet, it will die off.
That does not happen, I'm sure.
It won't happen, but there's and then you say, oh, just ignore the person. It wouldn't happen again. So you need to be clear, and while being clear, you're also giving them the message that you're assertive, that you don't want people to come and abuse your privacy. So that's important to actually clarify or make it clear at the very beginning.
So I think once we're going through all of the situations, what keeps coming up is the fact that you need to voice your concerns. And if you do have something that does make you feel uncomfortable, then you do have every right to go ahead and say, hey, I don't like this, what's happening here, maybe we can adjust it and fix it to suit you better. But there are instances such as nepotism, when you have your boss's child or maybe your boss's friend's child have in the same workplace as you, and they're in the same level as you, or maybe lower but down, but you find that you are the one who's filling out all their reports and you are the one who has to shoulder a lot of their work because they pass it on to you. They feel that they have diplomatic immunity in the workplace. So how do you address something like that? Because that can be a very, very sensitive issue if you try to take it up with your boss.
Yeah, this can be very prevalent in family organizations, family companies. But it's also to recognize how this person can fit into this job role, and if he can't fit into the job role, and if he's here just because of a connection, what your role is, whether your role has now been doubled because of this person's presence. But because you are an employee, a valuable employee, you can go and tell your boss about your workload. Not necessarily point fingers at the person who has now joined the organization, but about the increase of your own workload and how practically it's not possible for you to fulfill it. And by taking a stand on that, you're also communicating to the boss about what you can do and what you cannot do. I mean, what is not possible.
Of course. And when you speak about organizational loyalty and always following the straight and narrow, what if there is an instance when a payroll error is made in your favor, and then how do you react to a situation like that?
It's always good to be honest.
Honesty is the best policy on Good Morning Sri Lanka.
Even though it could be so tempting not to mention that, to oversee that. But I think it's important to be honest, especially because number one, there's also this fear that comes with it later, that if they find out, you might be seen as the one who was not loyal. So that's one. Number two is that by doing that, you're also you're also telling other people what you really stand for, your integrity, and I think people really respect that. And we have ongoing research on management motivational issues in the workplace. We have about 550 managers in Sri Lanka in our database. So one of the issues that keeps coming is the issue of being able to trust somebody. It's about not being able to say whether this person is going to be honest or not in the long haul. So by doing something, by actually saying, look, you have overpaid me, you're making a statement about your personality, and that can carry a lot of weight when it comes to promotions in the years to come.
And you can get dividends in the future for being honest now.
Exactly.
In different ways, as you mentioned, as promotions or incentives or things like that.
Exactly.
So straight and narrow is the good thing to stick to.
Sure. And what we forget is it's very easy to replace a person who has same amount of qualification, experience or competence, technical competence. It's very difficult to replace a person with the same sort of personality, same sort of honesty, and these are the values the organizations are looking for today. And if you think you have that, you need to be able to tell them that. You need to be able to behave in such a way that they would recognize you for these values.
Of course. But let's say at a managerial level, and you hear through the grapevine that two of your subordinates are maybe in a relationship. There are certain ways to handle that, I'm sure, but what's the best approach, especially if you are their manager and you are responsible for their behavior in the workplace, and there are workplace policies that discourage that sort of behavior?
It would be good to actually talk to them individually first, just to find out whether what he or she is hearing is correct. And if they do admit to that, then of course you have to clearly mention the procedures, the protocols of the organization, and some of the things that you might have to take into consideration. This might mean that one having to leave the organization. So that's a good way of handling it, because then you give an individual voice to these two people rather than relying on the grapevine.
Grapevine is not the best source to make managerial decisions, of course.
Of course not.
But when you are a manager, or maybe you are working as a subordinate, let's go to that level, and you find yourself doing a lot of personal errands for your manager, something that's out of your job description. Where do you draw the line, and how do you say, I'm not here to do everything for your wife and your children and everyone around you, I'm here to do my job?
Some people love doing that, believe me.
They do.
Yes, some people do. But if you don't like doing that, then you need to go back to your job description. So you've been hired to do something, but you actually end up doing something very different. You're attending to the personal matters of the manager. Once again, you need to be able to mention that or talk about that with your manager and come into some sort of an agreement.
But all this is premised on the fact that your manager is a very approachable person.
Yeah.
How do you deal with someone who is just not approachable, and the open door policy seems like an alien concept to them?
Some people look intimidating, but they are actually not intimidating. I have met so many managers who say, I can't understand why people don't come and talk to me. But sometimes it's their mere presence, it's their personality, sometimes it's their charisma, it's just something about them that intimidates the workforce. But that doesn't go to say that they're unapproachable. It's always good to try, number one. So if you get turned down, then of course you need to find another way of doing it. Maybe send a mail, because some managers are more open to corresponding with via email than face to face. It's just especially because some of them don't want to be bogged down with emotional issues, discussions with people, so they would rather limit that to an email. So if that's the case, you need to find the best strategy that suits your manager. What's the best way to approach him? And then do that accordingly.
All right, Roseanne. So I've been throwing out all of these situations at her, and you've, I think, addressed each one of them. So very, very well. So thank you so much for doing that. But we have one more segment with Roseanne coming up as well, and this is going to be the best so far. And this is going to be about success and how you can really readjust your behavior at the workplace, and how you react to everything around you to reach the peak and reach the level that you want to. So do stay with us here on Good Morning Sri Lanka. We have more great advice from Roseanne coming up. Good morning, Sri Lanka. Welcome back to the show. Now, so far we've been speaking about how you can, navigate through the workforce and really go through all of the office politics and things like that to shine among your colleagues and your managers as well, but at the same time maintain your integrity at the workplace, which has been something that has been stressed during our episode today. But if we speak about how you can become a successful person, then as you mentioned earlier, it has to be a holistic approach, I'm sure. And understanding success is something that's not quite easy. So let me start off by asking you, Roseanne, what you consider to be success and being successful.
For me, I think it's to actually lead a balanced life. And if at a given moment, if I'm satisfied with each and every area of my life, I think I am successful. Having said that, I know that the definition of success is different for different people. So you need to define success for yourself. That's number one, because I don't think you should wait till somebody else defines success for you. I mean, we are we are living in a world where there are so many social forces that if you don't define something for yourselves, they will scoop you up and you will be taken with the wave. So it's a matter of stopping and really understanding yourself, and also realizing what you really want from this life. I know these are big questions to ask when you're very young, but they're very legitimate questions for your future, and very necessary questions for your future.
But is it something that is restricted to the younger generation, or can you sort of reinvent what your definition for success as you go along in life? Is that a great way of approaching it?
Yeah, definitely possible, because you need to, I believe that you really need to keep reinventing yourself.
Okay.
Because you might start off wanting to be someone, but 5 years, 10 years down the line, you realize that that really doesn't satisfy you. Would you really continue doing that and end up being dissatisfied, or would you transfer or transition into something else where you might find some sort of satisfaction? So it's a matter of redefining success as well, but at a given moment it has to be in balance. That's important. That's in the core, at the core of success of any human being, because I look at nature when I try to define these big concepts. So because we are a part of nature, if that is right for nature, it has to be right for us. So in a way, so for if you take the world, if you take the atmosphere, if you take water, if you take a tree, if you take the animal kingdom, the sort of balance you have there, and we see this day in and day out, especially in my job, dissatisfaction, unhappiness comes from a misalignment with balance. So and